Hello, everyone. Louisa Jewell here, and I'm so pleased to have Sandra Chiodo, who is the group head and executive vice president of people and culture at Kids Help Phone and a winner of the Canadian Workplace Wellbeing Awards. So thank you so much for being here, Sandra.
Thank you for having me. I'm really happy to be here.
Well, I am so pleased that we can talk because the work that you do is so important. And I'm sure that people don't need an introduction, but can you tell us just a little bit about what Kids Help Phone does on a daily basis?
Of course. So Kids Help Phone is an mental health organization, and we support children across Canada, so from coast to coast to coast. Our services are offered in both through phone or texting as well in multiple languages. So we're here for the kids of Canada when they need us.
And so important. Do you find an increase during the holidays as well, Sandra?
Absolutely, we do. We also find an increase when schools are out. So we anticipate that calls will increase also when the kids are on holidays. We have seen a big spike in our texting services as well over the last couple of months. So yeah, absolutely. I think that kids reaching out continues to increase every day.
Yeah. And so well-being is so important to support workers who are
Mhm.
managing these emotions or managing these difficult calls, which I'm
Yeah,
sure can sometimes be traumatic calls of
of
kids who are
course.
in real crisis. So you won the Canadian Workplace Wellbeing Awards because you're doing so many incredible things to support your people who are doing this important work. What would you say contributed the most to winning of the award this year?
I would say our commitment to truly listening to our staff. I think that by listening, like we're very much impacting engagement and well-being because the initiatives that we implement here at KHP truly reflect what the staff are asking for and what they need. So I'll give you some examples. So each year we do an employee engagement survey where staff, obviously tell us their thoughts on what's happening within the organization, whether there's something that perhaps is not meeting their needs, what they would like to see. And that is really important. We take that extremely seriously. After that, we actually meet with the staff. We do action planning in order to determine how we move forward. It's been very successful in the sense that each year we see our engagement scores increasing. We just finished one in September, October, and our engagement scores were increased by 6%, which is pretty significant. So that's one thing that we do. The other thing that we did was we developed an HR You Matter strategy. So this is our 5-year strategy for HR, which details sort of our initiatives over the next couple of years. In order to put even that together, we actually met with staff across the country, be it through focus groups, through listening circles, through surveys as well, to really understand what it is that our staff need. And from that, we built our 5-year HR strategy. So again, very reflective of what staff are telling us. Most recently, we're actually in the process of implementing an employment equity program. That too, we look to see what staff are looking for. We had learning circles with staff, what's working well, what is not. And from that, we are going to, build our framework and our action plan really for the employment equity plan on how to move forward. So for us, I think it's listening and ensuring that the initiatives that we implement at KHP are truly reflective of what staff want and what they need.
When we took a look at 5 years of data that we've collected from all of our winners, we found that the top organizations in this space who are really focused on well-being have very strategic listening strategies. And what I love about what you're doing is then you take that information and you do something with it. And I think people like to know that they're heard, that they're not just responding to a survey, but that people are listening and actually doing something about it.
Absolutely. And that is so important to us, right? It's one thing to ask the questions, but if you don't do anything about it, what's the purpose? The staff notice that, right? They notice whether or not what they are saying is actually put into action. So I'll give you an example. One of the things that was really important for staff in our previous employee survey, not the one we did this year, last year, was around recognition. So we heard that, and we've implemented a series of recognition programs in order to recognize the great work that our staff do. Then in turn, when we did the survey this year, we've seen increases in the recognition factor scores. So it shows that people see what is happening, again, that we're listening to them. And to me, that's just shows us as an organization that cares and that wants our staff to be happy here, right? To do good work and also feel good coming into work.
Yeah. I love the fact that you're measuring these things too, because
Absolutely. Yeah.
often things, get implemented and you just say, well, I hope it works. But it's
Yeah.
great that you actually then say, okay, we tried something different.
Yeah.
And it sounds like a lot of these initiatives that you've implemented have made a difference to people.
Which we're very, very thrilled about for sure.
Yeah. Sandra, what do you think is one overlooked factor that organizations often miss when addressing employee well-being?
Would say that, you hear a lot of workplaces that talk about, things like fitness programs or flexible hours and all of those things, which are great. It's wonderful to have that. But for me, I think the biggest thing would be psychological safety. Excuse me. So I think that employees, they want to feel heard. Again, they want to feel respected, supported in the work that they do. And psychologically, it's a healthy, safe workplace allows people to share their ideas openly. So when they ask for help that they need, we're there and we're responding, we're listening. I think we want to be, or we are, in my opinion, an organization that employees know that they can actually come forward and tell us their feelings without worrying about the negative consequences, right? So being vulnerable and trusting us to make a difference for them. I'll give you an example. Let's say someone comes to us to express the fact that they feel, some frustration because perhaps they're feeling overwhelmed in their work. And I think it's important that instead of sort of brushing it off or offering immediate solutions, I think we need to start asking questions, acknowledge how they're feeling and ask, what can I do to make it better for you? What is it that you need? Is there something that we can adjust to make you feel better? So it opens the door, I believe, for like honest communication, makes people feel like they're in a safe place to speak up. And all of that stuff trickles through the organization. We know that staff talk, right? So I think that, by ensuring that we're there, like even doing it for one person, I think opens up the door for other employees to come forward and say, you know what? I actually need some help too. Can you help me through this? And so the other piece I think that's important, and this is something that we're going to be implementing shortly, is we're launching a KHP Learning Center. And within that Learning Center, there will be sort of courses or support that managers will be able to use in order to support their staff in these types of situations. So psychological safety is huge for us, very, very important. And given the organization that we are, I think we have a responsibility to ensure that not only the kids of Canada feel well, but that our employees are doing well in order to help them, right? So it's all a really, I would say, a priority for us for sure.
Yeah. And chances are, if that one person is frustrated, there's probably others who are frustrated by the
Absolutely.
same thing, right? And they
Yeah.
just haven't had the courage to come forward.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's great that you can recognize that sometimes people just need to be acknowledged as opposed to, you use this word earlier, instead of dismissing people, instead of
Yeah.
saying, oh, why are they overwhelmed? I did this job before. It's not
Yeah.
overwhelming. Or, oftentimes we can do that. And
Yeah.
instead to be listening and saying, maybe if we make some changes for this person, it'll probably affect other people as well and make a
Yeah.
difference
Right. And
overall.
they'll feel safe to come forward as well and tell us how they're feeling and what can we do to help them as well. But I absolutely agree. I think there's a lot of people that sometimes are struggling or just so, I don't know, afraid maybe of coming forward and thinking about the consequences if they do say that they can't keep up, for example. So it's important to
Yeah.
understand what's happening and provide the supports that we can.
I think too that there's this kind of toxic positivity sometimes that takes place. Like, oh, if
Yeah.
I come forward, maybe I'm complaining or maybe I'm
Yeah.
being negative. And I think sometimes that stops people as well. Am I going to show up as a complainer? As opposed to
Mhm.
let's just make the workplace a better place to work for everybody.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I never see them as a complainer. And you're right. There are unfortunately people that feel that. But that is one thing that, I talk to my staff as well in HR. Person comes forward, that is, they're being very vulnerable and they need us to be there for them. They need us to talk to them and figure out what's going on. So that's something that we try to distill throughout the entire organization. And I'm hoping it'll
Yeah.
help with some of the courses we're going to do as well.
So you did that with a series of courses, kind of were these kind of online courses that you did that
We're
all the
actually
leaders now or
So
what?
we haven't
Yeah.
implemented them yet, the actual
Yes.
formal courses, but it's been more through coaching and development of our managers through our HRBPs. But going forward, there will be, because we actually have not launched the Learning Center yet. We're hoping to do that in January. And with that will come a lot of that psychological safety sort of support that people can
Right.
use in order to support their staff. Yeah.
And I think those kinds of things, training leaders, that really helps to embed psychological safety in the culture of the organization. Without that kind of training, I
Mhm.
can't really see how leaders will even know how to do that.
Absolutely. So at this point, what we're doing is just very keeping it very simple. You need to listen to them. You need to ask the right questions. You can't brush it off. If they're feeling like that, we need to understand why. And the good thing about our managers is that they don't take it all on their own. They actually will come to the HR department and say, listen, this staff has actually brought this forward to me. How do I handle this? What do you think I should do with this? And then we can kind of coach them through that, right? So they are not off on their own. They know that we are here to support them as a manager on how to manage those kind of situations.
Yeah. See, that's great because a lot of
Yeah,
people hesitate to go to HR, don't they? But it
yeah,
sounds like you've
yes,
created an environment where people
yeah,
feel comfortable going to HR and
yeah,
getting some good coaching. That's great.
absolutely. Yeah.
And so how do you stay like where is everybody in your organization? Because I'm wondering how do you
Yeah.
stay connected to people to kind of listen, to hear them, to have those kind of feedback loops,
Yes.
and also to learn about some of these things that you're offering in the workplace to improve well-being.
Yeah, so we are very much a distributed work environment. So our staff are across Canada, from coast to coast to coast. Our counseling and texting staff are fully remote. Okay. Our actual general operations staff, we have the majority of our staff here in our Toronto office. They work hybrid. We also have staff in the Montreal office that also work hybrid. So we are all over the place. And so it's so important that we have the technology in place in order for us to be able to connect. And connection happens like in a variety of forms, regardless of how the employee works or whether they're on site, off site, we want them to all have the same experience. So what we do is we always ensure that our staff are involved in whatever is happening in the organization. We hold town halls on a quarterly basis. We have all staff colleagues meetings, which our staff actually organize, which is really great. We rely heavily on digital communication tools like email, Slack, Teams, obviously our Zoom meetings as well. But every time we have these types of town halls or all colleagues meetings, we always make sure that staff have the resources to actually join the calls remotely. And that really, really helps because we have some good engagement. And the majority of the staff we have, the majority of the staff do in fact attend. We also, what we actually, we recently did a staff appreciation day. And sometimes that can be difficult when you have staff that are working remotely in BC or whatever versus those that are in the Toronto office. So what we wanted to do is really make sure that we engage our remote staff as well. So when we held Staff Appreciation Day, we held it in both our Toronto and our Montreal office. For those that were close by, they could absolutely attend, our counselors or our texting supervisors. But then what we also did is we ensured that everything that we did, or for the most part, was hybrid. So we had trivia games, we had a meditation session. Those were all online, right? That people could participate in. And then what we also did is for our remote staff, which were not able to attend and take advantage of some of the treats that we had in the office, we actually sent them all a coffee card, so a gift card, so that they could go to their Starbucks, Tim Hortons, and actually grab a coffee and a donut if they wanted to. So that, and then that would show that we would have loved for them to be on site. Unfortunately, that's not always feasible. But that, like for us, just ensuring that we include everyone in all the activities that we do is so, so important. So any events that we do, our remote staff are always top of mind, right? How do we ensure that we engage them and have them participate as well? So it's working well for us.
That's great to have that sense of belonging, right? People feel that they belong. And you said
Absolutely.
coast to coast. So how north are your people?
Well, our services are offered across Canada. So anywhere in Canada, we are available. So we have staff in BC, Alberta, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, obviously Toronto, Quebec. So pretty much in all of the provinces.
So when you are implementing your programs at Kids Help Phone, are there some guiding principles that you use to shape this positive work culture that you've created?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think it's a little bit of the stuff that I've already been talking about, right? Open communication and listening. That is just so, so key, especially for me personally. Like I want to hear what staff have to say. The end of the day, it's their workplace, right? I can't just implement things because I think they're a good idea. We need to understand what our staff want, what they need. So that's key. Open. So for example, I'll expand a little bit more on that. And I mentioned, I'm not going to initiate a program without going to my staff to understand if this is actually what they're looking for and what they need. So for me, that's probably the most important principle that I, personally believe in. Respect and inclusion, very key. Our IDA strategy, our diversity strategy is core to the work that we do here at Kids Help Phone. So that's very important. So we want to make sure that anything that we implement is very inclusive of the work that we do. Work-life balance and flexibility is also important. So our remote staff can stay remote. They could also have the option of coming in hybrid as well. They can do that. Most of them choose to be remote. Our Toronto and Montreal staff are hybrid. So that gives them a little bit of flexibility as well to have that work-life balance. So that's key for us too. I mentioned recognition and appreciation. We know that that's a very important aspect for staff. And so we want to always recognize our staff. So for example, if we're implementing something and a staff has like a big role in that, we want to make sure that there's an opportunity for us to recognize them in the work that they do. And then lastly, I would say collaboration and teamwork. We want to make sure that our staff come together and whatever programs that we're doing or things that are even happening within KHP, we have a collaborative work environment. We want our teams to work together and we encourage teamwork. So whenever implementing some of these things, whatever initiative, these are some of the things that are always top of mind for us.
And I think guiding principles are so important because they're kind of like a lens with which you do everything in the workplace.
Absolutely.
Sandra, it's been wonderful connecting with you. Congratulations again on winning the Canadian Workplace Wellbeing Award. This is how many years has it been
I think
now?
this is the third year. I'm so honored. It's wonderful.
It's wonderful. And it's wonderful to see the good work, not only the good work that Kids Help Phone does, but also the good work that you do for the people at Kids Help Phone to support people who are doing this important work. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for recognizing us again. We're really appreciative.
Good.
Well, happy holidays, Louisa, and I hope to talk to you soon.
Thank you. You too. All the best.
Bye-bye.
Bye.